Well, here we go then. Another testing session. I'll just hang on a little bit longer till I go through the set. But don't worry about it. We benchmark all the time. Last week we did another benchmarking session. It's just data we're looking for. It's not always about progressing. Every testing session has a little story attached to it. All we just ask is just do your best and don't give up. There's always so much to feed into kind of these types of sessions. So look, the worst thing you can do, unless you're ill or something, the worst thing you can do in a testing session is just pack it in completely. Because particularly for the 12-minute effort towards the end, like, things can really change. You know, you might start off a bit sluggish and then suddenly the legs kind of fire in, and you'd be really surprised how much you can improve over that sort of time. Just be grateful we're not doing an FTP test, and just be grateful we're not doing full spectrum testing like we used to do, which is a fantastic protocol, but I think I'm much happier with this CP testing protocol because people actually do it. People are more inclined. It's just less debilitating, which particularly this time of year, people are just starting to race. Might not have the capacity for something as brutal as an hour and a half hitting any energy system. But that is what I'm going to talk about this evening. I know some of you guys have heard me talk about energy systems a lot, but we've got a fair few new people as well, and they might not have. And I think it's always good to reiterate this stuff, because sometimes knowledge gets tainted by other nonsense that's out there in the ether. So I do like to just clarify stuff. We talk about energy systems as we warm up. Before I get to that though, just have a quick run through the session so that what you're in for. Most of you already know. Most of you have done this before. In fact, everyone's done it before. But we've got a normal 10-minute build before we go straight into a ramp sector. That's our kind of fast pedaling efforts. So every 30 seconds going to crank up. Once we've got past the normal 10-minute build, we've got 30 seconds building up from 70% to 105%, and I'm going to ask you to take your cadence up as you go. We then have a lovely 3-minute cruising sector before we start the more out 20-second efforts. So that cruising sector after the ramp, that's when we're going to turn erg mode off. Okay. So for all of these assessments, we're going to be turning erg mode off. So we've got two 20-second sprints. We're doing two because sometimes it's easy to tick on the first one with erg mode off. Quite easy to mess up your gearing or drop your chain, get overexcited. So we'll do two efforts. So don't worry if you muff up the first one. Probably shouldn't have used that word. Anyway. Kind of recovery after the 20-second efforts. And I think that's the main thing that's different about this testing protocol is there's a lot of recovery. And at times, it depends, sometimes it can be actually a bit too much. I'll talk about that in a sec. But then got a 3-minute time trial. Testing kind of that uncomfortable heat between anaerobic and VO2. We then got 20 minutes of recovery. Okay, so I hope you guys are up for a chat today, because I don't have 20 minutes of content. So, hopefully, we'll think about it later, but make sure your unmute button's close to hand. It's the last session before we break for the race season, so any sort of chat is very welcome. And then at the end, we've got the 12-minute CP test. That's testing more kind of your aerobic fitness. Okay, so let's just go into this a little bit more detail now. Let's talk about the energy systems. So the energy systems, guys, they're basically your body's gears. Okay, what we're talking about is different kind of changes in how you produce energy, the different metabolic changes in your body. So the one we all know and increasingly don't love is FTP, your functional threshold power. What that's meant to symbolize is your lactate threshold, which basically means the point at which you start to accrue lactate, and you can no longer consume enough oxygen to buffer the build-up of lactate and hydrogen ions in your blood and muscles. So basically it's like the tipping point between aerobic and increasingly anaerobic. And then the next tipping point beyond that is hitting your VO2 max, because that is kind of like the next tipping point between kind of having a big aerobic component to your exercise. And once you go beyond that, you're slipping into purely anaerobic form of energy production, so the absence of oxygen. So the first kind of form of anaerobic energy production, once you get over VO2 max, is called your lactic acid system. Okay, so lactic acid is not what is causing your legs to burn. Lactic acid is a fuel source, essentially. Okay, it is lactate and hydrogen ions, the accumulation of them in your blood and your muscles. Those are the things that mess up muscle function, create that burning sensation in your legs, and just generally make things horrible. Okay, so that's the first anaerobic system. The second is your phosphocreatine system. Okay, that's your explosive energy system, maximum 30-second effort. Okay, your sprint system that's used by powerlifters, you know, track sprinters all the time. Okay, let's get the fan on. So those are kind of what we're looking out for today. When we're doing testing, particularly this form of testing, what we're looking out for is those kind of tipping points and how well developed each of your energy systems are, how well developed those kind of gear shifts are. All right, and our expectations to reach them will really depend on what your focus is. So our triathletes, you know, you guys actually, I would say for a lot of you, our cyclists and triathletes, yeah, they'll be more aligned at the moment than you might think. So over the winter, we've done a huge amount of anaerobic work, huge amount of explosive work. So hopefully you guys are all in a good place when it comes to your anaerobic systems, because we've done a lot of work over it. I wanted to make you guys really strong, so that as our kind of goals start to take different routes, you know, you were both all starting from a really strong, physically capable, and then our triathletes start to move towards kind of more time trialing, our crit and road races and gravel races, shift towards more kind of VO2 max and lactic acid system type stuff. Okay, so hopefully we should still get some very good numbers from everyone on the anaerobic stuff, but from this point on, really, I'd suggest our kind of objectives stop aligning so much, which is why we're stopping the squat sessions, because I don't want there to be any conflict. I want you guys to get exactly what you need now. So how does that all apply towards the testing protocol? Well, you know, like I said, we benchmark all the time for this stuff. We're always throwing in little TTs, little sprint efforts. So that's one of the reasons I'm saying to you guys, don't stress about testing. It's a snapshot. It's 50-50 how you're feeling on the day. Obviously, you can prepare for it. Make sure you're well rested, stocked up, fueled up, hydrated. But, you know, you're not tapered for it. Let's put it that way. So, you know, we can't expect, you know, miracles. Can't expect you to be on it every single time when it comes to testing. So just be realistic. Do your best. Just don't give up. Okay? Because at the end of the day, this is just a big session, big training session. And particularly as we kind of condensed it, made it a touch more manageable. We are very much in the range of just a pretty difficult session. It's not, shouldn't be an absolute killer. So how does the NSC systems apply to the type of testing that we're doing? Well, in some ways it's very simple. So the sprints, the 20-second sprints we're doing, they are testing your phosphocreatine system, your explosivity. So in particular, we're looking at the 5-second and 20-second average power for those sprints, seeing how you hold the power as well. How big is the drop off between your initial kick and then as you start to fade over the 20 seconds, and how relevant and how important that is depends on your focus. So for example, our crit races, we really want to see that power kind of remain steady over the 20 minutes, or that's a bit unfair. We want less of a drop off than maybe for our triathletes who aren't as anaerobically minded or focused. And so yeah, there's little bits and pieces. So it's not just about out and out power, it's about sustaining the anaerobic effort. So we're now into the ramp. So pick up the cadence as you go. I just realised my cadence is just not working. Well, it's working, but it's just not connected. A few seconds, guys. Yeah. Yeah, so it's the RIAK squad workout you want to be on. You've got time, don't panic. Yeah, you need to join the event. Yeah, so you need to join the actual event. So go into group workouts in the events calendar and join the RIAK squad workout. So what you probably... I think you might have done the Let's Train rather than the event. Because if you join the event, you should be with us. Hey, don't worry about it. You don't want to faff around. As long as you got the workout, and you're going at a similar sort of pace, it doesn't matter where you're performing it. Okay, so don't panic. But we're about 105% of FTP now, so let's get that cadence really nice and high. So yeah, the sprints, working on the phosphocreatine system. And then the 3-minute effort, we're looking more towards your lactic acid system. Okay, so one step down. So typically your lactic acid system is good for about 2 minutes. So we're just putting you on that uncomfortable edge between anaerobic and VO2. And then the 12-minute test, that's testing more your aerobic threshold. Okay, and we do the anaerobic stuff first, try and strip away your anaerobic system a bit, so that a 12-minute effort is more reflective of kind of what your aerobic system's capable of, rather than particularly the lactic acid system helping you out. Okay, so that's how the test. And then also, last week we did that 5-minute TT. So that was in there for a very good reason. One, so it's not all in this session, making it disgusting, but that will give us some good data towards your VO2 max as well. Okay, so that's why these are back-to-back weeks. We use that data as well. So, erg mode should be off, guys. So, I might have to do that. You want it to click this doodah, which is still poorly labeled, until it has an F, so it's fixed resistance. So it's just going to give you it's going to simulate a perfectly flat gradient. So 1.5 minutes, guys. Don't stress, don't think about anything else. Get erg mode off, We've got 2 short 20-second efforts. Remember, we've got 2 in case the first one doesn't go to plan. So don't stress, just clear your mind. Don't worry about course you're on. Just get ready for the sprint. As long as you're doing the assessments, whether you're following the workout perfectly or not, it doesn't really matter. We just want the data. It's all we care about, really. So, ergometer, spinning up the legs. Don't stress too much about the power target. The recovery targets are just kind of giving you a gauge as to how hard you should be working, but do feel free. You need to ease off a little bit, just get back on top of the gear. So don't worry, just go for it. The power targets for the assessments themselves are arbitrary. They are not individual. Again, they're just kind of a help. For the 20-second efforts, you don't need to pace it, just go for it, okay? So, we've got about 30 seconds. So pick up the cadence now. Let's make sure we're well above 80 RPM. Moving into the big ring front. If you've got a double chain ring, 10 seconds, so build up, just sort of shifting down a little bit. Still rolling a reasonable cadence, but getting ready to go. 3, 2, 1, here we go, come on. Halfway. 5, 3, 2, 1. And relax. Just into a nice easy gear. You've got 3 minutes of wonderful recovery. Take time. I'd hold off on the fluids whilst we're going anaerobic. Come on, guys. Just spinning up. So just remember what we're up to here. Testing that osteocretin system. Not just your out and out power, but also how well you sustain it. So just keep going all the way to the end. Reset the system though, reset the clock. Spin up the legs. Once you've got your breath back, try and bring your cadence back over 80 RPM. If you're pedaling nice and efficiently, it will help flush out some of the lactate, because even focusing on your osteocretin system, you'll still produce lactate because all of your energy systems are working at one time, but where the needle sits depends on the effort. Okay, so even though it's a sub 30-second effort, you still will produce some lactate. So get the legs turning over to help recycle it, and just try and relax as best you can. We do sprints a lot, guys. So don't stress if you haven't kind of smashed your target. Just do your best. Sprinting on a turbo in particular, it's a bit of a limiter because you can't leverage the bike as much as if you're outside. But nonetheless, because we test in a consistent way, even though it might not be your best ever power full stop, it could well be your best ever power on a turbo in relatively similar conditions. So it's comparable in that sense. Don't stress if you're looking at your numbers like, I can do much better than this out on the road. Really not a big deal. Thirty seconds. So bring the legs back in line, get your mind engaged again. Pick up the cadence. What I like to do is when I come up to a sprint like this, in the 10 seconds to go, I like to start shifting down the cassette until I get to a gear I know I can pick up from, and then I might have to shift down 1 or 2 gears as I go through the sprint to hold the power. So start shifting down if you haven't already. Get ready to go. Here we go, come on. 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well done. Woo. Oh man. Okay. Get the breath back. Shift into a nice easy gear. Spin up. So, just little sips of fluids. It's getting warmer. There's little sips. You don't want too much in your stomach when it comes to 3-minute effort. Well done, guys. I think another great thing about, well, it's not overrated again, it's not great, but more positive things about testing this way with multiple little tests is if one doesn't go to plan, you can just kind of put it to the side and move on to the next one. And I'd really encourage you to do that. A lot of people, particularly when it came to the performance testing, because we were doing an FTP test at the end, you know, if they weren't having a good day on the FTP test, they've just bin it and then get quite down about it. And it's just trying to get across to people that we're testing various different things. FTP, and you'll see it from social media and training articles, is still a very useful metric. Don't get me wrong, but it's becoming increasingly less useful other than setting your trainer. And I'll be honest, I don't think we're going to be too far from being able to set more individualized targets in these training applications. And if I'm even more honest, it should already be here. Like a lot of the stuff that we're working with CP and critical power and stuff, W prime, it's not new. But we've kind of settled on FTP, stuck with it, and not really advanced beyond it. Which, to be fair, is for reasons that I don't fully understand and have the knowledge of. You've got to set a trainer to something, but the credit where credit's due, there's a reason why it's FTP, but I do think it's time to move on, and we should have more individualization in our targets. And obviously, one of the reasons that we were trying to push towards AI-driven platforms, and I was trying to work with other platforms, was because I wanted you guys to have everything completely individual to you. Whereas in Training Peaks, everything's set according to a threshold, and it's usually your aerobic threshold. And so if it comes to like a real power athlete, like a cyclocross racer, or crit racer, or a track racer, they don't really care about their FTP, because they're not doing FTP efforts. All their efforts are VO2 max or explosive. So hopefully, in the not too distant future, we'll see some improvements. I think we have to. I mean, I've been apoplectic about it for over a year now, that things haven't moved on. Also, I've got no say. But anyway, moving on. More positive stuff. You're in testing, you don't need this crap. Another thing to say about the 3-minute test. It's a really useful one. I always see 3-minute power. It gives me a sense of the sort of power that you can put out over a 1-kilometer climb. Now, obviously, the gradient etc. will impact that. But I think that's important and applicable because in the UK, and some of you guys over in Guernsey, particularly around the outskirts of London, Surrey, Hertfordshire, Essex, all we've really got is 1-kilometer climbs. The occasional 2, maybe even a 3-kilometer climb if we're really lucky. But majority of our climbing is quite short. So a 3-minute effort, I think, is really reflective of how we can go out the climbs. So bear that in mind. 3-minute effort is hard. We're on a very uncomfortable cusp with anaerobic and VO2. Just go hard, guys. Build into it slightly over the first 30 seconds so you kind of find your gauge. Use the as I said, arbitrary target to build from. Okay, so pick up the cadence. Let's build into it. Okay, don't kick like you're sprinting, but you're still out of saddle, driving the power. And then spend the first 30 seconds figuring out your gearing. You want to keep your cadence nice and high. That's it, guys, keep driving it. Okay, that's the end of the first minute. We're down 2 to go. Okay, approaching halfway. There we go, 90 seconds. Dig in, guys, come on. Approaching the last minute. Guys, pick it up. .45. Nearly there, guys. Sprint again when we get to 15. 30. Get ready to kick. Ready? Let's go, guys, come on. 10. 5, 4, 3, all the way 10, 2, 1. Oh man. Oh. Well, guys. Stay calm. Allow your breath to come back. You've got 20 minutes of lovely recovery. So just relax, take time. Do your shoes a bit if you need to. Just give you every little relief you can. Well done, guys. Just clear your head, don't think about anything. Don't worry about anything. Just get your breath back. Once you've got your breath back, start to bring your cadence back up. So one of the things, this sounds probably a bit harsh to say right now, is you're still gasping for breath, but what we don't want to do is relax too much for too long, okay? We don't want to get cafe legs, and that's always the risk with such a long effort. We also want to flush out as much of the lactate as possible, but we still want to keep our heart rate relatively high. So as a general rule, try and make sure you keep your heart rate above 100 beats per minute. Okay, so keep an eye on that. And keep your cadence up above 80 RPM once your legs come back. Just take your time. Give you a few minutes just to stop seeing stars. And then I'll just do a little recap of the energy systems. And then guys, if you've got questions about anything, hit me. We're acutely aware right now, you're not going to be asking me anything. Let's give you a bit more time. Good stuff, guys. Deep breathing. Don't worry too much about the power target. Right then, hopefully you're just feeling a touch better. Cadence is back up, heart rate is staying above 100 beats a minute. Just do a little recap of what we talked about. So talking about the energy systems and how we're testing. So basically anything underneath your FTP is one training zone, strictly speaking. It's all sub-threshold. We delineate it for practical purposes. So zone 2, obviously, zone 3 tempo. Zone 3 tempo basically is a really useful zone because that's where you spend a lot of your baseline in a race. But really speaking, zone 2 and zone 3 in particular are actually one training zone. But obviously within that, you use more or less carbohydrates or fat, depending on where your heart rate sits. But FTP, that's your first kind of tipping point. That's your first shift in energy system, really. That's your lactate threshold, your aerobic threshold, so the point at which you start to increasingly accrue more and more lactate because you're not able to consume enough oxygen to buffer the buildup of that lactate, to recycle it, to recycle hydrogen, flush out hydrogen ions, and they're what cause the fatigue and cramping in your muscles. So your FTP, that's only one tipping point. There's only one number, it's only one metric. And as I said, increasingly we're moving away from it because FTP is meant to indicate the power you can hold for a full hour. And unless you're doing a 25-mile TT or a 40-kilometer time trial, there's not many instances where you would do a threshold effort for an hour. And actually most people's, because the testing what have you, most people's FTP, they cannot hold it for an hour. And it's just because actually their aerobic fitness probably isn't good enough to sustain it. And that's not criticism, that's just a reflective of the fact that we're amateur athletes, Our volume is limited because we only have so many hours in a day. For your FTP, that's just one metric. And then as you move up through the intensity levels, the VO2 is the next tipping point. That is kind of like the cusp between aerobic and then moving completely anaerobic. It's obviously your VO2 max is the maximum volume of oxygen you can take in at any one point and utilize. And so you can see how once you get beyond that point, there's nowhere else for you to go aerobically. And so you shift into your anaerobic systems. The first of which is your lactic acid system. Lactic acid is a fuel source, and lactate is the waste product. And that's good. That lactic acid system, that anaerobic system is good for somewhere up to around 2 minutes. Okay. And that sort of 2 to 3 minute area, that's kind of what our W prime. You will have heard, we've talked about W prime in critical power before. That's what your W prime is kind of trying to nail down. And that your W prime is basically kind of your fuel tank. How many efforts within a certain kind of fuel tank of kilojoules, we think of it in kilojoules, how many of those kilojoules you can burn before the tank is empty. Okay, and that's what your W prime is trying to nail down, and we test that through these anaerobic efforts. And then the next step up is your phosphocreatine system for efforts that are sub 30 seconds. So those 20-second sprints we did right at the beginning, those are leaning heavily on your phosphocreatine system. And so if you like your training zones, the way we kind of break it up, and again, this is one of the downfalls of strict training zones, is because like actually they should be individualized depending on your objectives. But you know, anything sub FTP is 1 to 3, somewhere around your FTP, so sweet spot FTP up to around 105% of FTP, that's zone 4. 105 to around 115%, or maybe up to maybe 120%. That's your kind of VO2 max area. And then sort of above 115, above 120%, you're shifting into your lactic acid system. And then beyond there, there's not really a power you can put on it as such. It's more about, you know, what power you can put out over 5, 10, 30 seconds. But that's kind of like your zone 7. So anaerobic is zone 6, VO2 is zone 5, threshold area is zone 4, and below that, 1, 2, and 3. Now, I said that FTP, we're sort of moving away from it a little bit in terms of our focus, and we're shifting more towards critical power and W prime. Now, critical power, it's a slightly algorithmic metric, but the way to think about critical power is it should reflect something like the power you can put out for 30 or 40 minutes, which for most people is a lot more applicable. So that's 10-mile TT. You know, that is the mainstay of British time trialing. You know, 20k sprint triathlon. It's, you know, kind of like a baseline effort for a crit or something, or cyclocross. You know, it's not exact, but it's just a little bit more applicable than an hour's effort, because you know, we rarely do long effort at max effort. And then, as I say, your W prime is nailing down kind of what your anaerobic fuel tank looks like. For our guys, if you go to the members area, we've talked about this a few times, so I don't propose to go into critical power and W prime too much, because we've done whole sessions on it. But if you need a refresher, have a look in the tools, in the members area. There's articles and a video on critical power and W prime. Or if you don't want to log into members area, if you go to the tools and articles section on the top ribbon, there's a critical power calculator, and there's some explanation in there as to critical power and W prime. As I say, I don't propose to go into it. We've talked about it quite a few times. But I think one last thing to say, really, if you're not already, hopefully you are, but looking at your previous results before you come into these types of sessions and before you do any kind of benchmarking exercise. So you all got your individual benchmarking spreadsheets, and that covers all the efforts that we're doing. So you got your 5 second, 20 second power in there. You'll have your 1 and 2 minute. I think you do. You definitely have your 3 minute power in there, your 5 minute power, 12 minute, and any other kind of personal bests that are relevant to you. So make sure you're checking that before you come to these sessions. It's easy to forget, but maybe having that spreadsheet saved down to your phone, so that if you do forget and you're thinking, shit, I don't know what I did for the 12 minutes last time, you know, if you can just check it quickly, because it does really help. Obviously, it gives you something to aim for, and if and when you beat it, it's a fantastic feeling. It can just help extract a little bit more out of you, and in some cases, particularly on the 12 minute, you know, stop you from going too hard too soon, because you'll be nice and recovered, hopefully, so it's very easy to go out too hard. Okay, so going back to the session now, keeping your heart rate above 100 beats a minute. Let's just try and get a bit more engaged, because it's so easy with this long 20-minute bruising effort to just recover too much, which sounds ridiculous, but what I'm describing is that feeling when you stop for a coffee, maybe a cake, you're there for 20-30 minutes and you get back on your bike and they're like solid blocks. It's horrible. We want to avoid that. So you've got to be a little bit strict with yourself. Bring the power roughly towards the target in Training Peaks Virtual without obsessing about it too much. My trainer is starting to annoy me, keeps cutting out. That's my problem. So yeah, just bring your legs back online a little bit, and just, you don't have to go be mean to yourself, but just start to ride in a focused way. The recovery is done. It's now starting. The way to think of it is now time to start priming the legs again. All right. So hopefully you've been drinking the fluids. Hopefully they're electrolyte or a low carb and electrolyte mix. You're just sipping away. This is a super intense session, guys. So, you know, if you haven't eaten tremendously well today, don't be afraid to get a gel on. I would say now is probably the time to do it. If you're worried about bonking, give it a bit of time to get to the system. But as you know from previous sessions, even just that kind of sugar hitting the receptors in your mouth, that will encourage your body to release more glucose. So that gel, I think it's easy, particularly when the session is just over an hour, to kind of, no, I'm just going to hold on. Don't want the calories. I promise you guys, if you think you're going to need that glucose, it is not going to touch the sides. You are not going to get an insulin response. It's going to go straight into your working muscles. So if it's something that's concerning you, better to get the gel on, and yeah, and then have more in your legs to burn. It's testing after all. It's just ever so slightly more important than a training session, you know? So have that extra gel if you think you're going to need it. Now though, just try and relax, shoulders down, chin up, and let's, all through this CP section, this 12-minute test, 12-minute time trial, let's try and stay as relaxed as possible. Okay, remember all your kind of best practices, so keep your chin up so you're not compressing your airways, shoulders down, relax the elbows, pushing yourself back onto the back of the saddle, and then just sort of staying there, not locking out the arms and bouncing. If you're nice and relaxed in the upper body, it means your bum's going to be well planted on the saddle, and that means your legs can just focus on putting out as much power as possible. Now, this 12-minute effort, let's treat it a little bit like an FTP test in that we'll just break it up a bit. Okay? So the way I'm going to break it up in terms of my narration or commentary is, I wish you this. Let's break up into 3-minute blocks. So break it up into 4 3-minute blocks. Yeah, 4 3-minute blocks. I'm tired as well, okay? I may not be working exactly as hard as you guys, but I'm still giving it a little bit. So the old brain is not working as well, and also I'm just crap at maths. And that is just an illustration of it. Yeah, so 4 3-minute blocks. And try not to look too far ahead. You know, use the first 3 minutes to build and just find out your legs again. And then after that, you should hopefully be in a level you know you can sustain. And then in the third and fourth 3-minute sectors, look to build a little bit. That's where not the damage, that's the wrong word, but that's when the progress can really be made. You know, if your first 2 sectors, first 2 3-minute sectors, if you're doing well, but maybe not hitting the target exactly, or maybe beyond the target, it's that final 6 minutes where you can really push things on. But you got to get within fighting distance of the finish. So cadence above 80, heart rates are well above 100 beats a minute, and we're just lifting the power a touch over the next 3 minutes. Still saying very much sort of low zone 2, but we're we're getting some meat, some beef back in the legs, getting some focus back in the mind. Get ready to go. If anyone does have any questions, by the way, feel free. Still got 3 minutes. Feel free to fire something out there. If not, just relax. Catch me looking down, it's because I've got some lovely white new racing shoes. I'm just sort of trying to get fitted properly, get the cleat position and stuff. And every time I look down, I'm like, oh, I really like those. It's been a long time since I bought new cycling shoes. Okay, just as FYI, as you guys know from the WhatsApp group, what I'll be doing going forwards, because I still want to kind of keep kind of providing knowledge to you guys outside of our normal catch-ups and stuff. I'm going to be starting to produce sub 10-minute talks, little seminars that I'll produce for you guys. I'm going to try and do it on a weekly basis. I'm not going to be as strict about it as I have been for our weekly sessions like this, because it takes a lot. It's quite hard every week, kind of researching a topic and trying then to condense it into small little chunks. But I'm going to do my best to produce them every week, and I'm just going to really make sure that we're producing a library of resources for you guys that are kind of a good level of depth whilst not being too long and boring. So we're going to talk about fueling and nutrition a little bit more. A lot of the stuff we will already have covered, but hopefully kind of being on demand, hopefully being outside the sessions, you can take on information a little bit easier. And also it will all be collated in the members area, so you can refer to it later. Right, 45 seconds. So let's start getting our game faces on, picking up the cadence, picking up the power a little bit. Let's get to a normal zone 2 cruising effort. So sort of around 65% of activity. And get ready to build. You don't need to kick. Okay, it's very much a build. So use the first minute or so just to explore the legs. It's not going to make a big difference to your overall result. Okay, it's more important that you are pacing it well than going too hard, find that out, having to recover, and hoping you can go again. So 5 seconds, get ready to build. Okay, good. So pick up the leg speed first, use the gear that you're already in, and then once you're used up that gear, then shift down whilst maintaining a nice high leg speed. Target cadence, maybe around 90 RPM or above 90 RPM. Keep building. Don't worry if you're not up to target just yet. Keep building. Might just take a little while for the legs to come back online, and that's fine. You've got plenty of time. Need to make sure you're in the big ring. Just realised why I was getting nothing more. No more gears. Now once you're kind of up to a power you know you can hold, start to tell yourself to relax, keep the chin up. Break it up in 3-minute slots. For a 2-minute in. Focus on the next 90 seconds. This first 3-minute segment. It's the last minute of this segment. We're getting to it, or be at power you know you can hold. Remember that last 2 sectors is where we can really kick on. So be patient. Chin up, remember, coming towards the end of sector 1. Okay, sector 1 down, let's move to sector 2. Just think about the next 3 minutes, don't look any further ahead. Guys, stay positive, everything going through your mind now. Be nice and positive. You're gonna do this, you're gonna crush it. Don't qualify it anyway. Keep feeding your mind with powerful, positive language. Coming up to 1 minute down in the second sector. 2 minutes to go in this second sector. In a minute and a half of this second sector already. So just maintain and we'll lift if we got something in the final 2 sectors, okay? So stay patient still. One minute left of sector 2. Okay, 30 seconds, then we're going to try and lift if we can. Now just remember, when we try and lift, it's not a big kick. Just start by lifting your cadence a touch. Sound out the legs. See what's there. So just instantly shift into a heavy gear. Okay? Lift and give yourself some time there, okay? You'll be surprised. Okay, so just look to lift. Just give yourself some time here. You'll be surprised what you can hold. Guys, stay relaxed as best you can. Keep working hard. You did a fantastic job. You're all positive, remember. Okay, minute and a half left in sector 3. Just one more sector after this, okay? So stay strong. Okay, one more minute and then we're going to really look to push on best we can. Stay on it, guys. You're doing an amazing job. Keep telling yourself that. Just by showing up today, you've already been a legend. Let's really go after it tonight. Right. There are 10 seconds. Again, we're not looking to kick. We are looking to build. Ready, guys? Come on. This is going to be the last 3 minutes of hard effort. Come on, let's lift it. Do your best. Come on. Stretch out those legs. Come on, guys, keep driving all the way to the end. Less than 2.5 minutes to go. Few minutes, come on, lift again, come on. Pick it up. Right, you're approaching 90 seconds, and as I always say, 90 seconds, you can do anything for 90 seconds. Come on, dig in. 90 to go. You're so close now. Right, we'll go to a minute to go. Release the reins. And just give it everything you got left. Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right, afterburners on, come on. Empty the tank now. Everything you got left for the final minute. Seconds. Right, come on then, big 20 seconds. Up the saddle, sprinting. Push all the way to the end. 10. 5, 4, 3, 2. Yeah, guys. Oh, hold on. Really relax. Get the gearing off. Chill out. Get your breath. Once you kind of collected yourself a little bit, start to spin up the legs. Just relax, guys. You're done. That's an amazing job turning up tonight. Really well done to you. It's all over. You can relax. Well done. Okay, let's just take a few minutes spinning up. A moment of calm. Don't think about anything else just yet. Just empty your mind. Just relax. Starting to sound a little bit like a yoga teacher, but it's true, you know. I think after these really intense sessions, you've got to give yourself time to just decompress. Try not to rush into something now if at all possible. Even when the session finishes, just give you a bit of time. You know, sit on your bike, just sit somewhere, you know, just take a minute, because this is such a highly stressful session that if you're not careful, you don't bring your cortisol levels down. So take a moment if you want to be able to sleep tonight. You know, I find that often after doing these sessions, because you know, I'm probably not working as high as you guys are in terms of heart rate and power, but trying to think and talk and stuff, you know, there's a certain level of adrenaline involved in that, and I find that often on a Tuesday I struggle to sleep because I'm sort of straight off the bike, trying to have dinner, trying to deal with an overexcited psychotic dog. So just be mindful of the need, just take a moment for yourself. It's not selfish, everything else can wait, generally speaking. Otherwise the day just sort of rolls into one big stressful mess. And that's another point. I know I'm sort of going off topic a little bit, but before sessions as well, I often force myself to take just sort of 10 minutes sitting still somewhere if I've had a stressful day. You'd be really surprised how that can rejuvenate your energy levels. Just taking 10 minutes where you're not on your phone, not watching TV, just sitting and just kind of getting rid of all the overstimulation, etc. Anyway, that's probably enough of me lecturing. But guys, really well done. That's our last session before the spring summer break. We'll be back with these sessions in October or November. But as I said, I'll be looking to produce you guys 10-minute talks, ideally once a week as best I can, so I'm still providing the knowledge. But guys, yeah, I've really enjoyed these sessions, and I think you guys have gotten plenty out of it as well. If anyone's got any questions, guys, I'll stick around, but otherwise go get a nice high protein meal and then have a look at your results and see how they compare with your previous benchmarks. But as I say, there's always a story behind it, so if it's not what you want, don't worry about it too much. There's always a story, and that's what we'll delve into when we chat. Anyway guys, has anyone got any questions, or just wanna... Yeah, just remember you guys are all at a really high volume at the moment, getting ready for the race season, so just bear that in mind. If the legs weren't crazy good today, you know, there is at least one very clear reason why that might be the case. Hopefully not. Hopefully you guys just absolutely smash that. There's lots of squeaks going on. Well done, team.